start our next presentation, fifth in a row. Please take your seats. I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker, Florian Stronk. And as you probably saw in the video, he is a game industry veteran and at the same time is a former army officer. And also a co-founder of a London-based BRAVOCOMPANY. And guys, they released one of the most downloadable games in the Google Early Access collection. And today, Florian is going to tell us what they've learned from that release.
Yep. Thank you very much. So I've unlocked my first achievement already today. I managed to prepare a presentation on time, which is really great. When I used to be at KONAMI, we would have these big executive meetings, these boring meetings, and everybody would work on the presentations while the others were still presenting. We were very happy that they never changed the schedule. We would have been really screwed. Anyway, I'm here to introduce BRAVOCOMPANY to you guys, Forces of Freedom. We've gone through a very interesting journey over the past 7 months, launching our first title through Google's Early Access program, which is a really, really awesome way to get new, innovative, unfinished games out in front of an audience on the Google platform. BRAVOCOMPANY is based in East London. We have basically been under everybody's radar for the past 2.5 years. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. I've worked at KONAMI for several years. I've worked on a project called America's Army. That was my start in the games industry. We have people who've worked at wargaming with us, people who've worked on Metal Gear Solid have been involved, a really good core team of engineers, and increasingly just really good people who've done stuff that they, for example, did on the Unity Asset Store. The guy who makes Meshbaker, which is a terrain optimization tool, works with us. So it's a nice bunch of people who all share really passion and ambition. We have good investors. We're venture capital backed. The lead investors of Supercell are invested in us. The Wargaming CEO is an angel investor, Victor Kisley. The King CEO, Riccardo Zacconi, is invested. And 2.5 years ago, we decided to go out naively and say, how about we making a really nice real-time team multiplayer combat game for mobile devices, a portable man cave, so to speak, a game that you can play competitively on the go, nothing that originates on PC or any other platform, something that is really born on the mobile platform. Basically, if you want to think of the game as World of Tanks Blitz blended with SOCOM, so it's a slower-paced, tactical, team-based combat game. There's no respawning. It features modern infantry from around the world, and you're basically leveling your soldier up across the decade. So you're starting off in the 1960s, and while you do so, you're unlocking the new equipment, the new features, camouflage, kit, and all that kind of stuff. My friend Chris here used to work on America's Army with us. He works at Wargaming. He's ex-US Army. He helped us with the authenticity, so the soldiers are accurate to the shoelaces. Thank you for that, Chris. Let me show you the game real quick. So it's 5 versus 5, team-based, class-based. There are snipers, there are riflemen. Controls are really touch first. You're holding your shooting button and you lift it so it feels a little bit like pulling the trigger. This is actually a group of US Marines that we met in Bahrain in order to play the game with them. They got really competitive and started screaming at each other. At some point, one of them was throwing a dummy grenade into the crowd, which I thought was really odd. Anyway, who's familiar or who is not familiar with Google Early Access, what that actually is? Okay, so Google Early Access is basically a store category, and that store category only contains games that are in development. It's a managed category, so you need to find somebody at Google who says, hey, I want this game in early access, and then you're among like 20 games that are visible through that category, and you will find early adopters and people who pick up the games first through that category. A big advantage is you don't get public ratings from the beginning. That if something is wrong, you don't get 1 star and you're screwed because people just find a 1-star rating not very attractive to even try it. Instead, you get private feedback messages from the player. They send you a message and you better respond to them. And I remember in the first weeks when things started to heat up, we all of us really responded personally to players and thanking them for their feedback and inviting them to our communities and that kind of stuff. The launch, really, the philosophy was different from what people normally do in mobile. We said, why would we put all this stuff, the retention stuff and push notifications and monetization, all that stuff in if we're not even sure we have a fun game? So we created what we call a minimum awesome product, which is basically only the content that is needed to prove that the game is actually fun. We basically put one rifleman, one sniper, and one map into the game, and we wanted to see how it was going. And from there on, the philosophy has basically been, let's update this thing every few weeks. Let's fix the stuff that doesn't work. Let's polish the stuff that is already in there, and let's add stuff, add new features over time. So it's an interesting mix of pre-planned stuff, and there were obviously things that we didn't know that were wrong in the game that had to be fixed. I'll come to that a little bit later. But ever since we launched in early February, we've been updating every 2 to 4 weeks, roughly. And the idea here really was, let's be bottom up, let's be community. We don't have money for big marketing anyway, so let's just be ourselves. Let's just be these passionate guys that just want to make a fun game and talk about it in the channels that people use. Let's be honest, let's be authentic. Let's find these first 100, 1,000, 10,000 players that you call the core of a community. By now there are a couple of 100,000, I would say. Don't panic if stuff doesn't work. It's just normal. You may think that you will lose all your player and everything goes to pieces. In our experience, people have really come back even after we screwed up some stuff and had to deactivate the servers for 8 hours or something. And try to evolve the game with constant player input. And when we went out, we had really learned from people out there that they are ever so slightly turned off by these fake trailers with big cinematic graphics, and then you open a game that you think looks like a console game, and it ends up being a simple base builder. People got really sick of that, and we thought, okay, let's go out with that authentic, honest, hey, this is us approach, and we released this trailer.
Fake trailers are crap. So we thought,
it starts with fake trailers are crap.
We're making a new 5 versus 5 tactical team combat game. It's a shooter that actually works on mobile.
So far, we've worked with people who've worked on badass military games such as Battlefield, America's Army, World of Tanks, Metal Gear Solid. We've worked with the international military community to make our soldiers and weapons authentic. And now it's time to open up and get you guys involved. And that's why we're on Google Early Access. Join us, give us feedback, and help us make this game absolutely awesome.
Yeah, the outdoor scene that you saw, we went for 4 days to an outdoor festival in the UK. Airsoft, people dressing up as soldiers, shooting each other with plastic bullets. We thought that is the best audience we can possibly find for our game to get excited in the first place. I think we found our first 100 players at this festival, 4 days and nights, sleeping in military tents that we had bought from a friend of mine, a Navy veteran. Fast forward a couple of months, we've seen more than 5 million completely organic downloads with this, plus another million through file sharing and that kind of stuff. We received that phenomenal early adopter feedback that a vocal minority of people is really crazy about it. We see good ratings now with the game, and at that point we thought, okay, it's worth keeping it. And at some point we realized, okay, this is no longer really an early access launch or a soft launch. We're live, right? We need to keep this thing going. We need to add new stuff. We need to make sure everything works 24/7. We've seen a really rapidly growing and highly engaged community. 125,000 people on Facebook, plus 30,000 in private communities. They share replays. They share scorecards. They threaten us that they will leave the game if we don't release a new map. I mean, the whole thing. We see clans, even though there is no way to play with everybody at the same time at the moment. They have these clans, and they create the logos, and they create memes. And there's this clan from Mexico who created even freedom T-shirts for their clans. I've worked for a long time in the games industry. I've been involved in really engaged communities for Metal Gear Solid and Pro Evolution Soccer. And when you see people creating memes that you only understand when you play the game, I think that's a really good sign. We had 3 people even showing up in our office unannounced. I was like, what is happening? This is stuff that I only hear from Nintendo or really established companies. So we gave them a tour. We played the game. We streamed everything live. And after 10 minutes, everybody was gone with a selfie with the team. But still a great experience. I receive phone calls at night. People ask me. It's my wife's favorite moment. We had a baby a year ago, and I suggested to her that maybe she could take the phone calls because she's awake anyway to feed the baby. She wasn't very excited about that suggestion. But now it was interesting what Riot Greg said earlier. You need to be really, really careful that you don't get eaten up by this. I could be chatting to people now 24/7, and frankly, it's getting a bit repetitive. They're asking the same things. We know they want more soldiers. We know they want more weapons. We know more maps. And while we're trying to answer everything in person, from a certain point on, that's really not possible. In any case, we've managed to establish a personal and direct interaction with our players. We call them co-developers. We have a live stream every Monday. Thank God it's Monday. The producer, CEO, and myself, we're playing against the community. We have live count-ins. We're answering questions live. It's a funny happening where we sometimes reveal new stuff that we're doing. For those who are using Facebook, I really recommend these regional groups that you can connect to your Facebook page. They now show up as suggested groups for players who have liked your page, and that's really where the whole engagement takes place. If I can put the same asset on the main page with 100,000 fans, we'll get a few hundred likes and some comments. I put the same asset in the group that has 25,000 people, I will get thousands of comments and thousands of likes. The level of visibility of groups in the Facebook newsfeed is massively increased compared to pages. They basically want pages to pay for their exposure, to pay for the visibility. We've also said we're taking a content-based interaction approach rather than just throwing marketing bullshit at people. Let's do stuff that people like. You know, they like these little things where they can upvote or hate some stuff. We've had a vote on our new logo in the community. We ask them which kind of characters they prefer. We celebrate the milestones with them whenever we reach a new milestone. Funny side note, with the logo, we thought, okay, we have these really cool 2 new candidates, and then there's the old logo. Let's do something as a test to that looks really shit, that really nobody would vote for. And we put this in, and guess what? Guess what came up as the highest rated logo. So that was a case where we had to say, okay, we're not following the community here. We've basically developed this shield here, which is basically inspired by international elite special forces. So far, so good. We have that community. Things are going well. People play a lot. People come back a lot. There were also a few things that I want to share with the development community which haven't gone right, which are really important to take into account. Things that I would probably do different, or we would do different if we did this again. So first of all, the whole idea of a regional restriction where you launch an APK to do some bug fixing with some Indonesian players, that kind of stuff doesn't work on Android. If you have a good game, that game spreads. We had a couple of YouTubers when we were out in just a few markets who were just uploading the APK to some file sharing site where you need to watch some porn in order to get access to the APK. Within a few days, we had 25,000 people just overnight in the game, and we were surprised where all these players came from. It's a good problem to have. Everybody I know who's tried to launch a multiplayer game, the first thing they had to do was bots because they didn't have enough liquidity. We didn't have any liquidity issue after just like 3 days. We would celebrate the concurrent user milestones. Oh, we have 20 concurrent users, we have 100 concurrent users, and we're no longer doing this now because we have a couple of thousand. This is a great user base to iterate from, and that file sharing has helped with that. But if you think you can be hidden and nobody will notice you, that's not how it works on Android anymore. A conclusion that I would draw from this is you need to localize early. Localization is the easiest winner to keep people from churning. Android players are very young, and not all of them speak English and whatnot. We have a couple of 100,000 players just in Thailand and in Burma and these places. And localization would have been an easy winner. We still haven't been able to put that in. But that's the one thing I would tell everybody. If you do this kind of launch, make sure to be localized right from the start. It's not difficult if you do it from the beginning. The volume of interactions with us quickly became really unmanageable. We have a direct message the developer right now on Facebook function in the game. So tap and it switches to your Facebook Messenger, and boom, you can talk to us. And it's thousands of messages per day, and the personal interaction really has its limitations. Everybody asks, when is the new weapon coming? When is the new map coming? I have a bug, etc., etc. We quickly, luckily, we found volunteers who got so excited about the game that they would help us to get stuff done. Moving forward, we actually implemented a chatbot. A chatbot it's not you have the feeling that you're talking to a human. It's just a few options that you press, and it asks you, hey, do you want to learn about weapons? Do you want to learn about game mechanics? Do you want to report a bug? And people click in the flow, and they get a pre-scripted answer. And what we're trying to do there is, since 90% of the people are asking for weapons, soldiers, and maps anyway, that's the first thing we offer them. And the ones that really want to go into a personal interaction, we tell them, hey, come in our closed community, become a member of our groups, and talk to us there. And there we have the volunteers coming in, our team, everybody, QA, developers, myself, we're all going in, talking to people. And to a certain extent, it's self-serving. That questions that we've already answered before, by now, you will find players who answer on your behalf, and which is quite a useful thing. Still, I haven't really decided yet. Is that really good enough? If you want to be really customer player centric, is a bot experience what you would want? I think no. It's just the second best option. But we basically launched this game after it had been developed by a handful of developers and 2 artists. And I was basically the only person who was not involved directly in the development, so I had to handle most of this. But we're recruiting moving forward. We want to establish that direct personal relationship with players. I would rather spend money on people rather than on marketing billboards, all that kind of stuff. I think a happy customer that feels connected to you, that appreciates that the time you take to respond to him directly is worth more than anything. Yeah, the bad. Hacking and abuse from day one, both in and outside the game. Within the first 100 usernames, we had 3 Hitlers, with double I, with double T's, with double L's. And you change them, and they find another way to spell Hitler without using the banned word list. We had friendly suppression fire in the game, which people abused. They would just run around and shoot their own teammates and keep them from shooting properly. We had some idiots hacking, which we were really not prepared for, and that basically took us a month or so to get all these little tools in the back end in place that allows us to change usernames, to ban people and that kind of stuff. Fake app and guidebooks, believe it or not, there are people who put your game with some fake screenshots from Gameloft on the Google Play Store, and then you open it and it basically plays an advertisement, and they make a little bit of money through the advertisement. Both for hacks and for these fake apps and guidebooks, there's a very straightforward process at Google and YouTube, where you basically report this stuff and it is gone after 24 hours. It doesn't remove it from the internet, but it at least makes sure that a hack doesn't show up if somebody looks up for a Forces of Freedom video on YouTube. As an advice, what you want to do if you report a hack, people think they need to report inappropriate content. That's wrong. What you want to do is you report copyright infringement, because normally these hack videos, they show somewhere your game in the game, and that basically means they're showing your so-called software interface, and that's what you can use to actually take them down, because there's no doubt, there's no discussion, this is your content, and you just can kill that hacker instruction. Whereas if you report it as inappropriate, there is a conversation. Is that really inappropriate? Is that freedom of speech? Doesn't matter. If they infringe your copyright by using your software interface, use that. And for the guidebooks, they really look like they're genuine, right? And then you basically see a list of YouTube videos that you've posted, and it's just distracting. So I would really recommend that is not good for the community. It distracts people from the good content. I would really take that off. The ugly. Our lead client developer insisted to put that into the slide. Whatever you do, make sure you do not publish into live by mistake, because that is irreversible. You will be out of the category. You will be out in the public. You will get ratings. You get all the stuff. You're basically a publicly launched game. Guess what happened to us? We wanted to launch a new beta update, and we mistakenly published it into live, and boom, we were gone from the early access category. We were a bit lucky there. We first tried with Google. We have a good partnership with Google to revert that action, which is technically not possible even for them. So we just had to live with it. But by that time, we had already managed to go into the Google recommendation algorithm. People who have downloaded game X, you should also try Forces of Freedom. So it didn't harm our downloads. As a matter of fact, the growth actually continued after this. If that had happened earlier in the process, we would have been really, really screwed. The only chance then would have been to relaunch the game as a new APK from start. So make sure it's a very stupid interface. It just says publish. You think you're publishing beta. Instead, you're live. There's no, are you sure you want to do this in between? Don't do it. And I can tell you, when we were waiting the first like 24, 48 hours to see what the impact on the download was, our engineer who had hit that button, he was very depressed. Well, we would have lived with it, but it actually turned out good. That's basically my deck. I'm a bit faster than I thought. Let me just point out that we're hiring heavily. We're looking for really good, versatile client engineers, a technical 3D artist, level designer, a game designer. If you're interested in making a really cool, badass mobile infantry combat game that is hopefully here to stay for the next decade, get in touch with me right here. And I'm also happy to answer further questions. Thank you very much. And I also apologize to the translator. I know I'm very fast at speaking.
Just wanted to ask what engine you're using, if it's an in-house thing or using like Unreal or Unity or something?
It's Unity.
Cool.
We are customizing it heavily. We have our own mobile networking code. We have our own server infrastructure. We were using our own shaders. We're using our own optimization tools. Some stuff like the terrain optimization isn't great in Unity for mobile devices. To be honest, without Unity, this project would have never existed. We were a messaging startup, which had basically developed an app that worked, but that nobody wanted to use. We had iterated it to a point where it had no users left. And we had 4 months runway left, and we said, why don't we do something that doesn't suck? Something that can be great, something that is fun, that we would really, really like to do. And we came up with this naive idea of making, hey, let's do like World of Tanks Blitz, but with infantry instead of tanks, you know? And then we just started getting Unity, and we got the stuff, these little first-person shooter templates from the Unity asset store, and then we just hacked controls for seven weeks. And at some point, there was no schedule, there was no plan. Everybody was just trying out different things. And at some point, there was a little bit of a magic. There was the combat suppression, there was scope reflections, the shooting, the pacing, the dynamics felt really right. And we played with our investors at the time, and the investors had originally said, you guys have gone completely insane. There's no way you guys are going anywhere with this. And then we played the first prototype with the investors, and we knew if this if they hate it, it's done. We're done as a company. So I told everybody, whatever you do, don't shoot the investor, right? He needs to have a fun experience. And so I remember to the day the investor was walking through the map like clueless with this ridiculous placeholder soldier with a science fiction gun. And so I was walking up on a hill and I said like, shoot me, shoot me. And at some point I see his scope reflection, I see the bullet, I get a headshot, and 15 seconds later I get an iMessage from him, dude, this is awesome. And basically then they gave us more money. And with that money we found a beautiful art team here in St. Petersburg. Again, people who've created stuff on the Unity asset store that worked with us. We remained a very toxic company for a couple of months. Nobody in London wanted to give us money because everybody thought there's no way that these crazy 5 people are going anywhere with something that no one has done before. But they underestimate what passion and what fun actually means to people if you really believe in something. So anyway, now that we have these 6 million people think, oh, there's a chance this might actually work after all, which is nice. And some people have approached us now and said, hey, guys, are we able to get involved in you right now? So it's that feels good. Chris here, he's believed in this from the very beginning. Always been helpful. Yeah, and we will try to keep that game going until either nobody wants to play it anymore or it becomes big, right? So we roll.
Hey.
Hey.
I can see in Google Early Access there are very few games there. Mm-hmm. So how you get in there? Is it simple, just press button or something?
Okay, no. You need to convince somebody at Google that this game is worth to go in Google Early Access. We've had a relation with Google from the days of the messaging app, and we just convinced them with this craziness and passion. And it also helps that we have these investors backing us because they understand that those are serious people. They're not a charity funding some clowns who have no idea what they're doing. And also, the content actually works for them, right? What are they looking for? Another base builder? Another match 3 game? No, there are these dudes, they're making portable mancave, 60 FPS, real-time multiplayer infantry combat, right? This is the stuff they want. So from that perspective, that was helpful. Also, we came in relatively early. I understand now there's a huge queue of people who want to get in. But just do the sales job. Just jump at one of them at an event and show them what you're doing, tell them what you're planning in early access. If you have a good game and a good strategy, I'm sure they dig it. This is not a big company category. This is also for the small ones, and it's a beautiful system with this. You can also do a little bit of a growth hack with it because everybody who's ever sent you feedback, if you update your own feedback, he gets an email. It means you can tell somebody who has uninstalled your game possibly, like months later, you can send him an email and say, hey, dude, we've updated, give it another try. And that's really, really useful. I love this program, seriously, it's good.
Hello, and sorry, I unfortunately came a bit late, so perhaps you have answered.
If you have enough time, I can do the whole thing again.
Perhaps you have answered my question in the beginning, I don't know. I didn't have yet time to try this game, so I don't know if it's a freemium game or a premium game. Mm-hmm. And so my question is that if it's a freemium game and you are in a domain of esports, mm-hmm. how to tackle that issue, that pay to win problem?
Okay, so first of all, we've launched the game without any monetization or meta game in it. There will be some accelerators in the future that you need to wait a little bit until the upgrade is there. The fairness thing we eliminate through matchmaking, so that teams get matched through with similar resource sets or level of progression. When it comes to the core experience is very, very skill based. You have recoil. You need to work against the recoil with your right thumb. You need to focus the shot. and basically aim while the target is moving, and then you lift your finger to trigger the shot. So the heart is very, very skill-based. And these the progression and the monetization, there will be things like we slow you down if you want to go from the 90s to the 2000s, and if you want to accelerate that a little bit, you can spend a little bit of money. But then again, when it comes to competitive gameplay, it would be ensured that people are playing with similar soldiers against each other.
Okay, question here. With the amount of people playing the game, the number of haters and people who dislike something in your game also grows, especially after an update. How do you cope with that, and what do you do?
Yeah, so far it's been we've been blessed. It could be worse. Now that we've been there for 5 months, we haven't added a new map and new soldier recently. We get these threat emails, I'm going to uninstall because you guys suck and you're the worst developer ever and stuff. My view is really, even haters and people who flame and troll whatever, they somehow care about what you do, right? The worst thing would be if everybody just disappears and never comes back. A customer who's unhappy means that he could be made happy somehow, right? So I have to be honored that he actually talks to me and hates me, right? As bizarre as that may sound. But it was really interesting also in context of the Riot talk. You have to make sure that you don't just fall for these 5 people who freak out over something. You need to really cross-check, is that a widespread issue that you're facing? Is it something that only an isolated person who will never be happy because they exist, faces? And to our experience, the same approach that Riot has taken works. Be humble, be firm on your principles, and admit if something goes wrong, but also tell them, hey dude, you just crossed the line, you don't, just don't do that. We understand you're passionate, but those are the reasons why we can't do this or that right now. And normally what we've seen, since everything takes place in somewhat public spaces, like Facebook or Discord or Twitter, other players are coming in and supporting the development team, which is great.
Hey, you said it's a Unity-based project. So do you have any, I believe you have backend server infrastructure, and how you scale it up and down, if you scale it, and how it's organized?
Can I call our engineer? So basically it's a microservices system.
AWS, or you use AWS? Or
it's Google.
Right.
The few buzzwords I can throw at you are
right.
Kubernetes,
Yeah.
Dockers, and something else that I forgot.
That's good enough.
Yeah?
Yeah. Right words. Thanks.
Not quite on the topic, but you mentioned that you worked for EA and KONAMI, and why did you decide to start your own company?
Okay. Ever since I've been 5 years old and sold my mom's flowers to a local flower shop in the street, I've wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've organized concerts. I've had a small record label, which was a disaster. I had a travel service that would bring families to football matches across Germany. And when I graduated, I thought, hey, where's that industry that you really want to work in, first of all? And at the time, it was music or games. And music didn't hire. It was the days when Napster was big and the music industry was declining. And I've always been a gamer. I wanted to work in an environment where I understand what players or customers love or like or hate, right? So I thought games industry is the place where I want to be. Sorry, Chris. It's great you're here. Chris basically was the first guy who worked in the industry at the America's Army team. So I jumped at him at the America's Army chat and said, hey, oh, you're a developer. This is so cool. And how can I get involved? And at some point, he just wanted to get rid of me and gave me access to the beta testing group. And then they basically invited us all to E3, and I jumped at the EA CEO with my CV and said, hey, I came all the way from Germany, I want to work for you. And they made me an intern at EA Germany. And then I basically got sucked into this corporate career through Konami. I always had a good responsibility. I was working directly for the European president, so I stayed for 8 years. But I always really wanted to go back into this thing where the only thing that you care is the player, not some politics, not some crap coming at you from some idiot that is your boss. No, you just care about the player. And I realized after a couple of years at Konami that I was almost in a corporate golden cage, right? You fly around to these meetings and you're so important and you have these great dinners and stuff, but you decide fuck all, right? There's nothing that you can actually do without your headquarter approving things. And then, funny enough, I ran into Victor Kisley, the Wargaming CEO, on a plane trip, and we missed the plane to GDC, and we ended up in a lounge together, and we talked about my role at Konami, and he looked at me and said, "Why do you work for these people? Do you like being humiliated?" I was like, "Yeah, you got a point, Victor." And after a while, he said, "Look, why don't you just start something? I like you as a guy, and I'll help you with a little bit of money." And at that time, we did this messaging app, and he gave us some money.
Cool, thank you.
I really recommend it, but I can only recommend it to certain people. You're really getting sucked into your own company 24/7. There's no way you will have the amenities of the corporate life and the freedom of a startup at the same time. It doesn't exist.
Okay, it's me again.
Well,
here,
oh, hey.
Kimmo Kari from Finland. So that's why I work for Rival Games, but as Finnish person, I happen to know a couple of people behind Critical Ops game. You probably know this. How your game differentiate from Critical Ops, and I have also one observation that I heard from the CEO of the Critical Force Entertainment, that he said that they try to be a bit innovative in this genre, but the fans wanted a Counter-Strike clone.
Yeah,
and they delivered that.
So the second part is the answer to your question, and how far are we different? They are Counter-Strike on mobile. They are trying to win that genre by doing something that has been on PC and win it through the sheer quantity of devices that is out there. There's one strategy. When we started, we found there are two types of shooting games on the market. There are one that are trying to be PC games, or they are the little brothers and sisters of the big PC games, or they are the ones that simplify the experience with artificial intelligence and support up to an extent where it's basically a tap duck hunting style game. And we thought, let's do something that is made for the context of the mobile player, that you can play in these 4 minutes, something that is meaningful, difficult to master, really maybe even hard to get into, but that can keep you for a long time by doing it over and over again. And the interface, the controls, the game pacing, everything is built around that philosophy of being truly mobile from the beginning. And the validation that this is hopefully a good idea is we see 60-year-old granddads playing with their nephews and their granddaughter. This is when you go into these twitchy, fast-paced games, you're losing certain people from a certain point on. Yeah, whereas this, hey, I can actually drink a little bit while I'm playing, and I still have a good time, right? I can leave my controls for a second to just look around a little bit and have a sip of my coffee. You can't do that in Counter-Strike style games and twitchy games because they're so fast. You will just get smoked. Our game is more about like, okay, I just spotted this dude behind that rock. He's going to show up behind that tree. Therefore, I'm going to go over to the temple and I'm going to ambush him. So it's more about the head than about the physical reaction.